And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is our Week 13 of the MLR 2025 season power rankings. We are getting down to the nitty gritty near the end. We have 4 more weeks of MLR action before we get into the playoffs. Right now, one team has clinched the playoff spot, which honestly is no surprise if you've been following my power rankings and following my videos of which team it was. And unfortunately, also no surprise, there is one team that has officially, mathematically been eliminated from playoff contention, unfortunately. But again, if you've been following my videos, kind of no surprise as well. Again, if you've never seen my power ranking videos, these videos are based purely on what you do on the pitch, who you play against, where you play them at. If you are a lower ranked team, being a higher ranked team, you're going to shoot up the rankings. If you're a higher ranked team, losing to a lower ranked team, you're going to fall down quite fast in the rankings. A lot of movement in this last week of action, so let's get to it. The one team that unfortunately there is no movement, and they are the one team that has been eliminated from the playoffs, is Anthem Rugby Carolina, unfortunately, who are still looking for their first win in franchise history. Yeah, I was expecting a lot more from them. There has been some interesting news recently with the possible promotion of assistant coach Augustin Criterion, who was the former Argentinian head coach, who is now the head coach of Anthem Rugby. No real word of what that means. Well, of course, I'll update you once I figure out more of it. But there's been a lot of rumblings and a lot of concern of the fact that Anthem, once again, is a kind of a project team designed to cultivate and grow young, eligible, USA Eagle eligible American born players. There were moments where it looked like they were striving towards the upward direction, but it's been very concerning the fact that so far they have yet to win a game. I'm trying to rack my brain right now if Dallas, which is the only other franchise I know that started without a win in their franchise history, how long it took them to get their first win in their franchise. I don't believe it took this long. And every other team has at least won a game in their very first season. Yeah, it's just been really shocking with this one. Anthem, unfortunately lost to Rugby Football Club LA in pretty, dominant fashion, 45-17. I'll go a little bit more into detail when I talk about RFCLA in this game, but yeah, Anthem's still struggling to find that first win. Kind of was debating, a little spoiler, kind of debating about whether or not they could possibly win their upcoming matchup, but I think that's just me trying to at least be more positive Anthem, but I don't feel with the way their schedule is being turned out for the rest of the year. I just don't think that they're going to win a game unless some team just kind of decides to take the time off as we approach the playoffs and kind of play Anthem with a less than starting squad, but we'll see. Moving down quite a few spots from number 2 all the way to number 10. This might surprise a lot of people. San Diego Legion, but it's only because the way that they lost to the Houston SaberCats, 37-20. Mind you, Houston at one point was the number 9 team, taking down the number 2 team in San Diego, 37-20. Pretty dominant performance. Let's go over it. Now, granted, in this game, the conditions were very, very windy, so kicking was definitely a little off, and there were some woes in the kicking for San Diego. San Diego was able to score a yellow card after Emmanuel Albert from Houston SaberCats unfortunately had a scary moment, collided upright with a San Diego player, knocked himself out. He had to be carted off of the field. Emmanuel Albert, of course, a Rudy Schultz winner. Rudy Schultz Award, if you don't know what that is basically the Heisman Trophy equivalent for the best college player in America in rugby. It's awarded to both men and women. The men is the Rudy Schultz Award. The women is the Emmy Sorensen Award. Manuel Albert is the Rudy Schultz Award winner from 2023, and one of the first Rudy Schultz players to get drafted to Major League Rugby. Unfortunately, he got a yellow card for knocking himself out, and with that, San Diego was able to score a try. But San Diego was trailing at the half 17-5, and it really did not get any better or closer for them. They were able to score a bonus try at least, but the loss 37-20 still knocks them down quite a bit. The one point of contention for San Diego was they were 0 for 4. A combined from Lincoln McClutchy, who has unfortunately kind of hit a rough patch with his kicking accuracy, and Ethan Grayson, who's also usually pretty accurate. Like I said, it was pretty windy that day, but both of them combined for an 0-4 off of the tee. Those 8 points might have made them a little bit of a difference, at least for San Diego. We'll see, but that does knock them down quite a bit to the bottom. Another team that falls a couple spots, and I feel bad for knocking them down a bit because they had a rough go, and I'll explain about that in just a sec. They were unfortunately the latest victim to Storm Week, playing 3 games in 9 days. The NOLA Gold, who ended up losing 2 games, actually all 3 of those games. They first lost to San Diego, then they lost to Miami 19-25, and then they lost to Old Glory following that 14-27. You could tell from the players it was a brutal 9 days. And unfortunately, though, they only slid a couple of spots, but definitely look really bad for wear. Let's go over the NOLA Miami game, and this is another thing. Unfortunately for NOLA, the Miami game and the Old Glory game, both games, severe weather conditions. The Miami game with NOLA was delayed at least a couple of hours because of how bad the rain was. And then also, too, there was lightning in the area, so they had to delay the game for safety reasons. Anytime that there's lightning around, and I've experienced this even here, oddly enough, in LA, with a Sevens event a couple years back, if there's lightning within a certain radius of a stadium, an open field stadium, play has to end because there's just the danger that lightning could strike the stadium, could kill a player, lots of dangerous things. If there's even a hint of a crack of lightning, even if it's not that close to the stadium, play has to stop for a certain amount of time until there's all clear. So the NOLA Miami game was delayed at least a couple of hours before it kicked off, and you could tell parts of the stadium were flooded. So that definitely didn't help in the game. NOLA was able to score first, but Miami's defense was very stout for most of the game. Now, Miami was ahead at the half 12-0, but then in the second half, Miami poiling out a bunch of points. There was a mistimed play by Dorian Jones, who's usually very clutch. There was a grubber kick by a Miami player that went over the head of Dorian Jones, allowed the Miami player to catch the ball and score a try. Miami was able to get at least a losing bonus point in this game, but did not look good against Miami, losing again 25-19. We then go up to a couple of spots is RFCLA, who, as I mentioned, did kind of beat down on Anthem, but because of the poor performances by San Diego and NOLA, that kind of pushed RFCLA up a couple spots. In the game, I gotta say, the Anthem played a pretty competitive game, at least in the first half and a little bit in the second. But the game started off with Billy Meeks, who has been playing just phenomenal. He is a 5-time, I believe, top 15 player of the week. If you don't know, Major League Rugby selects a top 15 team, and basically a dream team of the best players of the week. Billy Meeks has had the most nominations for that dream team 5 times this season. He has been phenomenal. Also has scored, I believe, 5 tries, the most he's ever done in LA, back even with the Giltinis. He assisted on the first try, a beautiful grubber kick to Tim Anstey, who's also, surprisingly, that was the very first try for him this season, but he's been playing really well, one of the great young Australian players that have been in RFCLA. RFCLA also getting a huge try by Justice Tavai. I gotta say, Justice Tavai, who has just been picked up because of all of our props getting hurt, and then Vogan Isaacs, who was just so phenomenal. He was my player of the match in this game. He may not have scored a lot of points. He did kick a couple of conversions off the tee, but man, just the energy he brings. I know Reese McDonald is obviously the hot signing for us, and he's been phenomenal as well. Fortunately, he's picked up an injury. Vogan Isaacs, though, has given that energy that usually Reese McDonald delivers in that position. He's been phenomenal. It just shows the great depth that RFCLA has had this year comparatively to last year. Guys like Justice Tavai, Vogan Isaacs, who have been able to step up when a lot of players have been hurt and just really delivered when needed. So both Justice Tavai, who only 2 Major League Rugby caps, 2 tries as well. He's been amazing for RFCLA, and then of course Vogan Isaacs as well. At the half, RFCLA up 19-5. Billy Meeks did score a try in this game, and that was his 6th of the season. Anthem had a lot of possession, but not a lot of scoring because unfortunately they've had a lot of handling errors as well. Another interesting fact that was brought up during the halftime was that RCLA leads in so many categories in the overall league. Defenders beaten, that means tackles that were broken because of our players, meters that were run, passes made, just a lot of really great offensive categories. RFCLA was number 1 in all of them. Yet, also too, unfortunately, number 1 in penalty cards being given. I think number 3 in penalties conceding. So I feel maybe because of those factors, RFCLA is not exactly on top in the Western Conference. But it is surprising that RFCLA has been doing really, really well. Just they've also been shooting themselves in the foot with a lot of the penalties that were given. Also, RCLA number 1 in tackles made. And in this game, they were, at the half, 96 tackles made compared to Anthem's 18. Just goes to show you that even when Anthem had the ball, RCLA's defense was just stout as can be. In the second half, though, Anthem kind of started fighting back. LA looked a little sluggish, and that also seems to be kind of the thing. RCLA starts off really hard in the first half, and then the second half kind of, I don't know if it's because of the up-paced tempo, just kind of wearing away at the players, but the second half is always kind of a real scary moment for RCLA, and that allowed Anthem to score a couple of tries. But then, and granted, again, they were able to score a couple of tries because Ben Houston, unfortunately, got a questionable yellow card for a high tackle. That allowed Anthem to score those 2 tries, which, again, as I mentioned, kind of what has been shooting RCLA in the foot is the yellow cards, most in the league. But after that, then, RCLA put it on the firepower, scoring 4 tries in the second half and really putting the game away. Strong finish from RCLA in the second half. And also a great try by Franco Vandenberg, who celebrated his 75th cap in Major League Rugby. So congratulations to you, Franco Vandenberg. And Jason Dahm able to get 2 tries to finish up the game, giving himself a brace. RFCLA doing really, really well. Granted, again, against a team that's never won. So it is to be expected. Wasn't going to move them so high up, but because San Diego Nodal really fell down, that allowed RCLA to boost up a couple of spots. Another team that's been struggling and dropped a couple of spots, the Chicago Hounds, dropping down from number 5 to number 7 with a loss to arguably the best team in the league right now, New England. Your reigning defending two-time MLR champions, 27-17. This game was supposed to be kind of a marquee game, but to be honest, it really looked like Chicago just was flat in this game. Chicago started off first by scoring 63rd try overall by Dylan the Butcher Fawcett has been phenomenal, but 2 more tries in the first 30 minutes. But then after that, it was all New England. New England scoring 27 points after Chicago put up 17. I don't know what happened to Chicago in the second half. It was all New England. Luke White, unfortunately, from Chicago, getting a yellow card for a headbutt that he shouldn't have done, and then New England getting a red card as well, kind of canceling it out. But New England dominating Chicago. Chicago, like I said, started off the season pretty hot, looking like the team we always thought they were going to be. But then in the last 4 games, 1 for 3. Now, granted, those 3 losses, one to Utah, who were hot at that point, to New England recently. The surprisingly lost to Seattle. That one was kind of surprising. But again, last 4 games, 1 for 3. And now what was Chicago kind of running away with the Eastern Conference is now a battle for first between Chicago and the team that they just lost to, New England. Moving down, another team that struggled quite a bit is the before mentioned Utah Warriors, falling from number 4 to number 6 with a loss to a maybe resurging Seattle. It was a very close game, 28-24. In this game, both teams kind of fighting back and forth. Joe Mano, though, who has been having a bonkers season, gets his league-leading 12th try of the season. It should be noted that the last time that Joe Mano had the most tries scored in a season was 14, and that was back in 2023, I believe. So he's not too far off from matching that this year. But very, very, very good so far this season. Jordan Trainer also getting a try scored. So once again, a team that was up at the half, 17-7, unfortunately falls apart in the second half. Utah does score with a beautiful interception try by Joel Hodgson, but then that was pretty much it. Seattle runs away with the game, just comes back from behind 28-24 to win. A big issue for Utah was in this game were the lineouts. I believe they lost 7 out of their 10 lineouts, so that percentage definitely not good. Cost them quite a bit. And this is the, after starting pretty hot and becoming at one point the team to beat in the entire league, are now suffering a 2-loss skid, and that drops them down to 6. Moving on to 5th place, the before mentioned team that beat them, the Seattle Seawolves, who, I talk about Utah going down, losing 2 back-to-back. Seattle has all of a sudden kind of come back with a couple of very good wins. I mean, they drew with LA, but then won 2 more games. So starting the season, I believe it was 3-5, and now winning a couple of games. They're kind of finding their way back. And again, Seattle doing what Seattle does. Your two-time MLR champions. They usually start the season off kind of slow, and then they start to ramp it up when they need it the most. Seattle is fighting for a playoff spot. They're only 2 points behind LA in the 5th overall conference standing in the West. Only 4 teams make it, so Seattle is still that team on the outs. But, I mean, if they can start a win streak, they can easily make their way in, which doesn't bode well for RFCLA. Moving on to the number 3 spot, Old Glory DC. Moving on to number 4 spot, Miami, as we mentioned before, defeating NOLA. And then the other team that beat NOLA, Old Glory DC, who has been looking pretty good so far. With that Old Glory game, again, another game that had some severe weather conditions. It was raining, wind was going crazy. I felt kind of bad for some of the players because they were getting drenched in that game. Because it was such a slow game, the kicking game was not happening. Julian Roberts, who has been phenomenal for NOLA, got denied a try at the beginning, but then ended up scoring a try on a second attempt. But Old Glory scores a try, so again, another game where a team was up 14-8. NOLA was up 14-8 in the first half, and then after scoring 14 points in the first half, NOLA didn't score a single point in the second half. It was all DC. Old Glory scores a try from Nick Grigg, a second try from Facundo Gatas, who got a brace in this game. It should be mentioned that NOLA had some pretty bad issues with the tee. Luke Carty going 1 for 3 off the tee, which definitely hurt Old Glory as well. So Old Glory stays at number 3, and then as I mentioned before, number 2, your Houston SaberCats, who've been looking really, really good as they're marching their way up towards the Western Conference. It's a fight between Houston and Utah for that top spot. Houston dominating San Diego. And then number 1, once again, is the New England Free Jacks with a pretty dominant win over the Chicago Hounds. Should be mentioned that Paula Balakalan got a try, his 40th overall in the season, still number 3 in most tries in Major League Rugby history, his 9th of the season. So New England, also a team that's kind of started off really, really slow, and now looks like they're back to form as the reigning defending two-time MLR champions. But Chicago still has a chance to be up there. Western Conference is kind of up to Houston and Utah, but it's really the last playoff spot that's going to be interesting for the Western Conference. Just like with the Eastern Conference as well, as Miami, Old Glory, and NOLA are fighting for that spot, for those last two spots. So this is our power ranking. Quite a bit of movement, at least in the middle. Not so much on the top two spots, but yeah, looking very, very interesting. So let's now go over something that, again, a certain individual has been very, very excited about. We'll go over our SuperBru results, and here they go. And congratulations, Sarai. I never know how to pronounce it, but congratulations for getting the golden cap #1 this week. 7 out of a possible 17 points, which just shows you how tough this week was. Right behind them, this is a surprise, Sunshine. Congratulations, brother. I think that's the highest that Sunshine has ever gotten, 6.5. And then we had 3 players tied for third. Our reigning defending SuperBru champion, JZS. A Rugby Morning John from Rugby Morning, and good old fan favorite John Hawkins are tied for third with 6 points apiece. Unfortunately, Nathan got the wooden spoon. Now, with that being said, let's see how the overall rankings are going. And Julie EGW still at top with 62.83 points, but because of Sarai's really great standings with getting the golden cap, he had last week a 4.83 point difference. He made up that difference with his golden cap win this week, and he's now just exactly 1 point behind from Julie GW. So it is going to be just like what it was between Julie GW and CrossFox earlier this season. It's now a fight for the finish between Julie GW and Sarai for that #1 finish. And then just behind them, USA League and Union fan, my good friend Coop, is in third, 58.75, so he moved up a spot. Rugby Morning John also moved up a spot, #4, and unfortunately CrossFox, who was holding on to that 1 spot, slides down 2 spots to #5. And I do got to give a special shout out to All J Long, one of our Rugby SuperBru winners. He has moved his way up to #6, up 3 spots. At the bottom of the rankings, because the Sunshine's great showing, Sunshine moves out of the bottom 5. That drops Theo God to 24 with 46.58. And then, unfortunately, Frisco Flame didn't make any picks, so he stays at 36.58. Leon did not make any picks either. He's at 34.5. But GMV Rugby, good job for you, brother. Because you did make some picks, you moved up. You are now tied with Leon. So you are at 34.5 points as well. And then Melvin Rocker, of course, has not played in a while, so he's at the bottom. But GMV Rugby just goes to show you, if you at least try, you can make your way up. You may not make it to the very top, but you at least won't be in the bottom. So just goes to show you, keep making your picks, SuperBru people. And then don't forget, guys, we do have another Storm Week coming up. So we do have games on Monday, as well as on Friday. So lots of games, lots of action. Again, it's been an exciting week of MLR action as we are getting closer and closer to the end of the season. Playoffs and all these games are going to mean so much, and I'll talk about that in my next video. So again, thank you very much for watching my videos. Appreciate the support, and I'll see you on the pitch.